Yes, you're totally right. And when you started describing our career in the news media, I was thinking that I'm afraid now looking at this topic today, I may have spread a lot of very strong atmosphere through news and through documentaries that were not always similar to the one I would hopefully spread at the meditation center. But what really triggered a big change in my life was I knew that they were always a mirror to each other, and whatever I would do in a spiritual journey would be tested on my career, in the newsroom. But whatever I went through in my career will also be a reflection or a mirror of what will be happening in my spiritual journey. And one day I met the head of the Brahma Kumaris, came to Montreal, and the way she spoke to me on that day was very strong. And she said, Eric, your consciousness at work should be the same as it is at the center. And she walked by. She just told me one sentence: your consciousness should be the same at the newsroom or in the media that it is in the center. And for me, it just confirmed what I was trying to do. And I was trying to bring the meditation center at work, but also to bring my work in the meditation center so it's real when I talk about spirituality, and I'm not in a cloud somewhere, but I'm really addressing issues that I live in day-to-day life. But what changed is that when I went back to the newsroom after a meeting that day with Daddy Genki, was sensing that my purpose was really clear, and it was one of service, not anymore of working. It was not my work. I was going there to serve, exactly as I was doing at the center. And it really shifted my consciousness a lot at work and helped me a lot.
And I think people who don't work in mainstream media don't always appreciate that very often how you communicate the news agenda is controlled by people above you. And the style in which you report is controlled as well. So there is an extent to which you have to perpetuate the prevailing narrative, and your opportunity for influencing that isn't so great. And I'm sure you had people tell you the same, but I used to have people tell me that they would enjoy listening to what I was saying because it just somehow felt like everything was well in the world. And through your voice, through your energy, through your attitude, you were able to communicate this feeling that people couldn't really put into words, but they felt something. And to get that through, regardless of what you're being told to present, can be quite a challenge sometimes. Did you find that?
Well, I really feel so fortunate to have been in contact with the Brahma Kumaris when I was 21 years old. I mean, I was barely cooked, as an adult. I was just in the beginning of my life, and to encounter the spiritual force of, the knowledge that we obtain in Raj Yoga through the Brahma Kumaris was really a saver, because the newsroom can be kind of a little shredder. You can enter the newsroom and end up in a little mashed potato, and your values can be quite damaged through the media. I've been covering sometimes very harsh news, domestic abuse, murder, riots. I went through a terrible time when we covered an event in the States about, the shooting in a school, and they killed young kids, like 6, 7, 9 years old kids. And we arrived, hours after the event. You're traumatized. You see that and you're traumatized. You just have to deal with the parents who just lost their children. And it really triggers in your head, well, what world am I living in? But, being raised on a spiritual journey as well. And I was very lucky that in my profession, I gained the trust of my superiors, of my bosses, and also doing my homework. I was, working hard as a news reporter, as a producer, and more I gained experience. They started to be open to hear the voice I wanted to bring in the newsroom. And a very short example was, I think when we did the 10th anniversary of 9/11, And, every year after 9/11, when, this tragedy happened in New York, every year was the same news, first anniversary, second, cry again, traumatize everyone again. And people just didn't want to hear anything about 9/11. So when the 10th anniversary happened and I was told, well, we would like you to do a special, I was running the main newscast of public television, the 10 o'clock news hour show, which is, it's very stressful to do that. And it's a powerful news hour, 10 o'clock at night. That's when, that was before, now we all switch off from television and we're on the social media. But it was, and it still remains a very powerful show in television. And I told the management, the higher management, I said, people are really tired of this anniversary of tragedy. I said, I can do a special 1 hour show, but to one condition, I'll do it with a different angle. And we came up with this show called 10 Years Later, What About Hope? Something like 9/11, 10 years later, what about hope? Where is the hope? I can't remember exactly. And we did a show where everything had to be focused about, from one tragedy, how did hope evolve and how did it manifest? Not just where it is, but how did it really manifest? And we call the crew in Afghanistan and tell them, we changed the lineup a little bit, and the story we want you to do is about hope. And the journalist was very experienced and he said, Eric, there's no hope here. What are you asking me to do? And I said, well, just give it a try, for a week or two, look for it. And he came up with an incredible story and told me afterwards, if you didn't ask me to look for it, I would have never found that story. And we did the show called, 9/11, 10 years later, where is hope? And we got so many incredible feedback from the audience. So many said through emails, I was definitely not going to watch television on that day. Everything about 9/11 was switched off. But I saw the word hope. So I was intrigued and I looked at your show, and I thank you so much for bringing that dimension. So to me, spirituality in the news media helped me not to, of course, present the world with, pink glasses, but to rebalance, right and wrong, dark and light in the media quite many, many times. So I was very, very appreciative and grateful for having a spiritual background. And I think we could bring that anywhere, into the worst environments, newsroom being a tough one. But I think if we really are strongly motivated, I would say, by pursuing an agenda based on values, it can really transpire anywhere we are and wherever we are and change the atmosphere.
That's such an inspiring story. And I think news producers often feel that it's the dramatic stories, the more bloodshed, the more catastrophe, the bigger the story, the more viewings they're going to get. But actually what you've just said demonstrate that there is equally an appetite for the uplifting stories, the stories that bring hope. And it would be wonderful to see more news producers taking that tack. Because of course, we've all had 2 years of reporting on COVID, which has created an atmosphere of fear, of anxiety, of uncertainty, to not even want to go outside your own front door because you're scared of what might happen to you. And, I don't know about Canada, but to a large extent, that fear has been driven by mainstream media in repeating all the statistics and hyping up all the, the seriousness of everything that's going on, which of course it is serious, but it has produced this situation in people where they were reduced to a state of fear where they could no longer function. And, where is the responsibility in that? And I know that's not our topic for today, but I think, it would be great to see more news gathering centers putting out messages that bring hope and inspiration. But the question that you may want to respond to that, but the question I wanted to come on to in a sense was, you've painted this lovely picture of being able to bring your spiritual angle to what you do. But I wonder how you have maintained your own personal atmosphere within the atmosphere of the newsroom. And this is a question for anybody that has to go to work in an atmosphere that is less than what they would like. How do you maintain for yourself that positive energy, that feel good, so that no matter what is going on around you, at least you're coming from a place of a nice, calm atmosphere around you? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, we are very fortunate to be part of an organization that shares such a wealth of information that really stimulates my interest in being at peace with myself, being happy with myself, and changing myself. When I came, to the Brahma Kumaris, I was 21, as I mentioned, and not that I was any disturbed person or any in trouble. I was a good person, good education, good family, everything was okay. But I knew a big piece of the puzzle was missing. And it was all about my own inner insight, not allowing me to deal with the difficulties of the world. And when I became a journalist, producer, everything, and was confronted with heavy duty atmosphere, I would still feel that in the morning, I would have my meditation, I will go to class, I will study all kind of great teachings about philosophy, and I would come to work, they would barely wake up with their third coffee, and then I will be awake since 4 a.m, having had meditation, classes, breakfast, talks, meetings, and I will be fresh like a bird. And they will always tell me, Eric, where are you coming from? And, how can you be like that? And, when you like something, you just use it everywhere. I mean, I use cologne and I love perfume. I'm very, very French in a way. Well, I even wear cologne sometime when I play tennis, and people says, Eric, you're playing tennis. I say, yeah, but I prefer to smell good when I play than not. So I go to work and I create always a space around me in my office, which completely looks like an extraterrestrial person is working in the newsroom. And the newsroom is usually like a war and disaster zone, paper everywhere. It's really not clean and tidy like a lawyer's office. Usually it's messy. People are running. There are always deadlines, so they're dead before even they reach the line. And the desks of journalists are known to be a big mess. And then in the whole disaster zone, there's always a little corner with dim lights, sometimes with little candles, soft music playing, neat place with spiritual pictures on the wall. And people pass by and think, who is working here? I mean, he's probably from another planet. No, he's the head of the newsroom. I say, what? And I had so many times people walking into my office just saying, wow, feels so good here. How can you do that? You're in a newsroom. I say, well, I need that to go out of my office and not turn like you. When I was offered my first job as a journalist, I was 22 and I was a clerk in the newsroom. And the big boss asked me, you have a great voice. My French, is very French. So I was in Quebec. He told me, you should work as a radio reporter. And at that time, I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I was studying to be a vet. And I just had a summer job as a clerk in the newsroom. And I told this big boss, thank you for the offer, but look at your journalists. They all look crazy. I mean, they're stressed to death. They shake, they're always angry. I said, I don't want to become like this. I'm not going to work as a reporter. Thank you very much. But I didn't know that, almost a year later, I would be in another part of Canada looking for work again in my studies. And I found this position as a journalist, actually. So I think we bring wherever we are, our inner world to the outer world. But if our inner world is strong enough, it resists and actually overshadows sometimes the outer world. But if the inner world is weak, the outer world will take advantage. And I went through that many times when I thought I was, a strong little yogi in the newsroom, and I got crushed, by conflicts, problems in the newsroom, stress. tension in a team. And so I thought, okay, I have to do better. I have to bring something better. And during the COVID, again, we did a whole year on a story that was focusing on the values that needed to be looked at in order for the after to be different from the before. And so we did a big documentary series called After Before. And it was all about, what are the values people are going to really, really change. And again, we got so many comments of people saying how refreshing it was to finally have a 1-hour piece on television, public television, not dealing with fear induced, not just by mainstream media, by the way, but social media is actually even worse sometimes in propagating fear and strong thoughts on this. So we brought again 1 hour on values dealing with the situation, and this is mainstream media, and there's a room for that, and there's an appetite, like you said. So yeah, I think bringing sometimes soft, dim lights, a little bit of cologne spray in your room, create an atmosphere, and people will come. Bees, people don't like bees, right? They can sting and they get so scared. Put a flower and the bee will come and it will do something wonderful that will be called honey. So if we are a flower, or if we create a flower environment, even the, how do you call it, stinging bees will come and help the world in creating honey. So that, I think, could be a powerful image to keep in mind. Let's not be scared of the bees. Let's not be against the bees, but let's tame them by becoming a beautiful, fragrant flower, colorful, and help creating honey in the world.
It's a lovely scene you've painted for us of your office. It makes me feel like I'd like to come and work in your office, but in a way it demonstrates how we each have the potential to create our own atmosphere wherever we go and carry it with us. Even if it's not a physical room, we carry an atmosphere around us so that wherever we are, we can influence the atmosphere rather than the atmosphere influencing us. And I know that, when there's a day that my morning meditation hasn't gone the way I would like, or my thought processes haven't been organized and I'm a little bit jangled, it's like that energy ripples out into the day. And that'll be the day when you fall over and stub your toe, or, something happens because you haven't got this protective atmosphere around you, which does feel like a protection. But I want to bring you to the other part of your life, which is the life in the meditation center. And anybody who has visited a Brahma Kumaris meditation center anywhere in the world will have experienced that same atmosphere. They walk into the space, and if they don't articulate it, they feel, wow, this atmosphere is something different. It has an energy about it which you don't find many places. They probably would use the word peaceful because that's a word that people are familiar with. But perhaps what they're really picking up is that energy of purity, of a pure atmosphere. Can you describe for me what that atmosphere feels like to you, and maybe suggest how it is that atmosphere has been created?
Well, in the same way, I think we described, the contrast in the physical atmosphere in a newsroom, where you can have a messy environment, but within it, a kind of little alcove or a little area of peace, but physically. For me, when I go anywhere, even at the center, if you ask anyone from the Montreal Center, they will tell you less now, but I've had a long period of time when I was quite intense in my, personal desire to maintain the center in a certain specific way. The lights, I was crazy about removing all the neon signs, installing different lights. I would put marks on the dimmer so that everybody respect the light when we walk in. It should be of that particular light, not too strong, not too slow. For many years, we used incense until everybody became allergic to everything. The blinds had to be open in a certain way. The aesthetic, I was called the minister of decoration at the center. And I was very specific about the frame should be like this, and that should be like that, and the cloth. And it was not just about aesthetic, although I used aesthetic along with smells, along with light, to create an atmosphere, a physical atmosphere. And anyone will walk in in the center, and just physically, they would say, wow, it's zen, it's quiet, it's peaceful. But beyond that, there was another dimension which is very spiritual. And to me, I find it very interesting to understand that atmosphere on a physical level is real. But there's another atmosphere on a spiritual level, which is very invisible. And most people, I would say, are not quite skilled to detect that spiritual atmosphere. I mean, some people, even with their nose, don't smell anything. They have a very bad nose. Some have eyes that don't work. Some have a nose that don't work. And sometimes I tell someone, it smells so good. They say, yeah, I don't smell anything. Or it doesn't smell good. Yeah, I don't smell anything. I can smell cigarettes from my neighbors when they smell. It goes through the wind. I don't know how. I can smell it. My nose is very sensitive. So some ways, some people can't detect smell, and some can't detect atmosphere on a spiritual level. And what we're told in Raj Yoga, which I really find fascinating, is that you have 4 elements that are key. You have thoughts that are the seed. And along from thoughts come attitude and vibration. And we really understand that thoughts is the soil that will allow an attitude to grow. Attitude is not just like that. You build an attitude with an accumulation of certain thought patterns. And at the same time, those thoughts and attitude also create vibrations. People talk about it, well, the vibes are good. But real soul vibration, spiritual vibration, energy vibration on a non-physical level, it's different. And these thoughts with attitude and vibration create the spiritual atmosphere. And to me, in the atmosphere, you can have an element in the beginning, which is positive. So the energy that I am as a spiritual person first will become, just positive, and everybody can relate to that. But you will have less people who can move to the next level, which in my opinion is spiritual. Positive is about quality of thoughts based on knowledge, understanding, positive structure. It will be okay. I'm fine. You're a good person, whatever, positive thoughts. Spiritual thoughts are more than positive. They are filled with values. Core spiritual love is not a material object, although, the story, but originally love is a spiritual value. Peace, happiness, the values, and those values, when they penetrate, when they really, when the mind imbibes those values, the quality of thoughts becomes spiritual, not just positive, but they become spiritual. And then you can have positive, spiritual, and then you can move to a level where we talk about purity. And purity is when the spirituality is not compromised anymore by the inner weaknesses or negativity of the soul. I can create a nice environment in my place, but be very angry. So you'll feel that my place is nice. And they will say, yeah, it's nice, has nice vibes, but the magic will not be there because the deep negativity is not removed. So you can have beauty, but if there's dust mixed with beauty, it's like a tarnish. It doesn't sparkle. People sometimes they say, oh, it's already clean. I don't need to clean. And I heard that one day, and then the senior told me, no, if you clean it, after you will feel the difference and you'll say, oh, now it is clean. And it's the same with the mind. We think, oh, I'm positive. Oh, I'm spiritual. But did you clean it? Did you remove the negativity? And once we remove the negativity, then comes purity. And it's why we connect purity a lot with cleanliness of the mind, not just positive mind or loving and peaceful mind, but pure mind, where negativity has been removed, disinterest, renunciation. These become active ingredients to clean the mind. And then comes the last stage, which in my opinion becomes then the powerful atmosphere. So you can have a positive atmosphere, a spiritual atmosphere, a pure atmosphere, and then a powerful atmosphere. And the powerful atmosphere, which is what we are looking at in our spiritual practice, is an atmosphere that will serve other people, not just inspire them, which is the spiritual and the pure atmosphere, but transform them. And once you're in a powerful atmosphere, you find that your own inner weak attitudes can be changed. And that's where we find it very interesting, that the pure, powerful atmosphere can help other people to be transformed. They find the strength to be different. When we go in a church, in a temple, in a mosque, or in a sacred space, there is inspiration because there's a spiritual atmosphere and very often a pure atmosphere. But if the power of the atmosphere touches the soul, the spirit, then we come out, with new motivation and a will to become like that. So that's the way I see it myself in terms of transforming just something positive into something pure, powerful. And on a spiritual level, the foundation is my own inner conscience, my thoughts, my attitude, and the vibrations that I'm creating. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's how I look at it in my own inner space.
Yeah. It's an incredibly useful structure you've created there, the progression from positive to spiritual to pure and then to powerful. That really resonates for me. And I'm wondering about how this occurs. And you've given examples of physical places which hold that energy, and when you step into them, they can transform you. But the same can also be true of individuals. And what I'm thinking of is the headquarters in Mount Abu. You and I were both around in the early 80s, and we had the great fortune of meeting some of the elder sisters who we call daddies. And you've mentioned Daddy Janki, who was one of them. But there was another one for me, Daddy Kumarka. And I experienced what you're saying with her as a person. So you're already in a really pure atmosphere, which is the ashram of Mount Abu. Senior yogis, sitting in meditation silence, beautiful space, beautiful energy. But then someone like Daddy Kumarka comes in and there's like another uplift altogether. And this is without her even saying anything. She just carried this enormous light that touched everything around her. And I wonder what it is we have to do to get to that place where, without even saying anything, we inspire this absolutely pure atmosphere in everything and everyone around us.
Well, you should find a trick to the fast track to become a Daddy Kumarka. In 3 weeks, I will manage a 3 weeks program. Please let me know. And I'm also, she's just here behind me, actually. This is the one that, we call Daddy Kumarka in the middle here. And there was Daddy Janki, here, Daddy Janki and Daddy Kumarka. Yeah. And I consider myself almost like a child of Daddy Kumarka. And I remember so many times she would walk in this huge hall and she would arrive, with a little entourage and then it's just quiet. And at the end, if you remember, people would naturally stand up. No one told us to stand up, but many felt like standing up just to honor. And the power of that soul to me was really in her purity. the quality of her soul, to be, I know purity is a very strange word in a way, just briefly to play with chronology. When I came into, before I came to spirituality, I shared it many times in different places, but I had an encounter with a whale that was pretty impactful. And I saw the eye of the whale, and the whale looked at me, and I felt the whale talk to me, and I didn't smoke anything, I swear. It was just a beautiful day on the St. Lawrence River in Quebec. And I really felt that connection. I really felt the connection with the whale. And I was completely, really, really transformed within me. And the thought that came afterwards was, I want to be pure. I never even had the word pure. And that was in the 80s. So that was before this food crazy fashion of everything to be pure and organic and everything. And I had the thought, 21 years old, I want to be pure. And I turned around to the friend who was with me watching the whales. And I told her, I says, I'm going to be pure. And she said, that's it. He's crazy. What are you going to do? You want to be a monk, or you want to be a priest? I don't know. I don't know what that thought means. I just know I want to be pure. And I used to smoke a lot before. And I tried so many ways to stop smoking because I was also very sports oriented, and they don't go very well. And I never found a way to stop smoking. I tried the patch, the chewing gum, the hypnosis, everything. Nothing worked. But after seeing the whale, the thought came, I want to be pure. And I never had a thought of smoking after that. I'd never even touched a cigarette. I changed my life completely. And I don't know what was happening, but I had this yearning for purity. And when I came to the Brahma Kumaris, and they told me after this very nice, friendly, non-pushy lessons in the beginning, just seducing you to become a yogi. And at the end of these sessions, they told me, yeah, by the way, there's a little thing I want to tell you, is that to continue on that journey, you may want to consider something we call purity. And I said, yeah, I like that. And I said, really, you do? Because usually when the word purity comes up, people just turn around and run as quick as they can because they see the big sign, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And purity is often connected to don't, it's impure, don't. And for me, it was not like that. It was just, no, I want that light. I want that energy, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. I know it's not monk or priest. It's not like that. And then when I discovered the purity, the energy of purity, which to me equated or resonated with freedom. Purity to me was, I want to be free from anything that stains me, that colors me in a way that is not me. And purity is like, that's why we say it's cleanliness. If you wear white and you cook your spaghetti sauce, you're going to be very careful. I use a lot of turmeric, this yellow powder in the spices. So when I cook, I tend to be like this. Or I use a big, shield or something. I like this COVID device. You use your shield and then you can cook your turmeric. But it's annoying having a lot of white cloth with little, spot of those yellow, and you use turmeric with tomato paste combination to ruin your kurta or your white shirt. So I really felt purity was, I'm going to be free from that negativity within me that is really torturing me. And I quickly understood through spirituality, I still maintain positive spiritual purity power. Through my spirituality and positivity, I understood that all my suffering, all the suffering, come from within and not what I used to believe from outside. So I used to understand, okay, I'm flawed. My own inner anger makes me unhappy, not what I believe is causing me anger, but my anger is making me unhappy. And I'm slave of my anger because I don't control it. My lust, my ego, all these things that people say, you're normal, you're human. Yeah, but I'm an unhappy human and I'm messed up human. And I realized that what I was being offered as being purity was actually freedom. And to me, that was my encouragement to lead a pure life, realizing that if I make my food more pure, if I make my relationships more pure, if I make my mind pure, like a sacred space, I would be free from my inner demons, my inner, bad, whatever you call it, habits, attitude, anything. And then it feels like, okay, I'm in a war now. This is a war zone. I'm telling my evil, like the hero facing the dragon and saying, you, the dragon, I'm sorry, but I have to kill you because the princess is on the other side and you're on my way to get to the princess. So as a little prince, as a hero, I need to go through the dragon. And for me, Raj Yoga is about conquering the dragon. And you have to fight it. You can try to give him a little French kiss on the cheek, but he's going to burn you anyway. So better pull out your weaponry and be ready to, confront the dragon, which is your own inner demons. And that's where it gets a little entertaining. And then you go through, okay, I want to be pure. It's not that simple, but the knowledge that we receive, understanding, helps me to create my mind, to create in my mind strength. And those strong thoughts, positive thoughts, will move to spiritual thoughts, then to pure thoughts, and then to powerful thoughts. And yeah, that's a process.
It is a process. And as you say, it's a journey. And, 40 years later, my feeling is I'm just beginning to really understand what that journey is about and experience what you're saying, which is that this journey towards purity is not a series of you can't do this, you can't do that. You've got to reach some goal which is out there. It's a journey to finding and re-experiencing what is the essential original quality of the soul. So it's something that is within me already, and it's something that I want to re-emerge. And I was thinking, how to describe this feeling to someone who hasn't had that feeling. And possibly one analogy could be, a newborn baby. Most of us have seen a newborn baby at some time or another. And there's something about that freshness, that innocence, that purity that we naturally are drawn to. We love to see the small baby because it somehow reflects or mirrors our own innate purity and innocence and all those lovely qualities. Because, what we're saying here is that this is our natural way of being. It's just the dust of every day, the dust of the karmas of this lifetime and possibly previous lifetimes have all settled on the soul, and that needs clearing and washing and cleansing to get back to that original sparkling jewel that is the being of light, that is who I am. So that's a lovely analogy. But I wonder if you could just say a few more words about the way in which our thoughts create the atmosphere around us, and the atmosphere around us then inspires and influences our thoughts. So it becomes almost like a virtuous circle that we create for ourselves that then sustains us and keeps us experiencing what we want to experience.
It's fascinating because in Raj Yoga, I think the fundamental belief upon which the whole meditation practice is based is the very simple sentence, I am what I think. So my thoughts define who I am. So if I want to be a good person, I better start having good thoughts. And there's so many ideas we can share on that, but one for me, which is very practical, is when there is conflict with someone. And when you're not agreeing with somebody, and we know how much this situation we went through for the last 2 years has been polarizing people to dramatic, situations. I mean, we've heard so many families. I went to, last night, I had dinner with a very, very good friend of mine, and she told me that she found out that, I mean, she's close to her brothers, but 2 of her brothers really, are subscribing to theories where, we're all victims of conspiracy, let's say. And she said it totally torn upon the family, totally torn upon. I mean, the harmony that was there before has been completely shattered and broken, and they don't know how they're going to fix it. It has such a polarizing effect of disagreement of the view of the world.
Totally.
That it has been really painful to a lot. I mean, in Canada, we have a national capital on the siege at the moment on the basis of different thoughts based on very strong belief systems. And it's tearing apart the nation at the moment. So when this is real, and you're a little yogi and you say, yeah, that's great, pure thoughts and have a pure atmosphere and the world will be changed. Well, good luck, my dear. This is when you're confronting difference of opinions to a point where people that you loved before or that you thought loved you before start to insult you. And you start to question your feeling for that person because suddenly we don't agree on just a concept, really. Well, that's where I feel, okay, is this equation true? That my thoughts will create an attitude and a vibration that could affect the atmosphere. And that atmosphere can change the other person's attitude and eventually their thoughts. I'm not saying I want to convince people so we have the same thought, not at all. I want to come to a point where we can be completely on the opposite spectrum of belief, but maintain respect, maintain love, maintain harmony. Is that possible? And in my opinion, it only is possible if we change the atmosphere. And for that, I would suggest that, and I know we won't have time to go into the details, but the research I've done in my own self is to find how do I get in touch with thoughts that have the power to change the vibrations, ultimately the atmosphere. And I realized that many thoughts are created by my public self. And as a French person who likes cologne and perfume and nice clothes, I was very concerned with my look. And if you're concerned with your look, well, it consumes a lot of your mind to pay attention to your look. You watch magazines, you buy things, you're engrossed in it. It's important. Your public self. Maybe it's not your look, but maybe you're very concerned about how people think of you. So public self generates very specific type of thoughts, diplomatic, political, power struggles. It's big, big, big domain. How many of us are stuck in the public self? Me knowing how I present myself and how people look at myself. We move from that public self to what they call, and we call, the authentic self. It's a complete different dimension of the self. It's a little bit like those Russian dolls. You have one outside and say, oh, you're big. Well, open it up. I'm a little bit smaller. There's another one inside. It's the authentic self. That authentic self takes work. It has to shed the layer of the public self to find out if the authentic self has harmony between thoughts, words, and actions. It's a totally different dimension. And when I get in touch with my authentic self, my thoughts are a little bit more humble. They're certainly more spiritual. They're less concerned about public opinion. And move on and you'll see it's fascinating, the authentic self. And then you open the little self and say, there's another one. And the other one, I call it the mystic self. And the mystic self is the one that is pulled, that is inspired, that is drawn to an ideal that is not authentic, and certainly not public, although I may try to pretend I'm this hero that I see in my mystical self. But the mystical idea is also polarized by good and evil, good and bad. So sometimes people become possessed by a negative force, and people say, I don't recognize you. It's not you. You're not like that. And it's almost as if a dark side has taken over the being, shattering the public self, totally confusing the authentic self, and polarizing it into a very negative self. But equally, it could be done on the positive side. When I'm really, like for me, the whale and the purity was like, I want that. I'm not that, but I want that. So there's a lot to say. But then we open that, and then there's the final self, which I personally describe as my magnetic self. And it's the pure self, which is totally naked, not human. And that's where it's difficult, not human, purely soul, just a soul without my human nature, human identity, human body, human shape, just a soul, point of light. That's what we teach in Raj Yoga. And in that soul magnetic energy, then I've explored what kind of thoughts come from that awareness of the self. We call it soul consciousness, but it's an awareness of being a magnet. And in that kind of and that kind of space, I realize that the thoughts I will have for another will match that energy. And it's a very pure energy where I see the other as my brother, my sister, a soul. I only see values. That's only words. There are no sentences. They're just powerful words: love, peace, energy, purity. And when my consciousness in this is in that space, it creates, I believe, thoughts that have a magnetic energy. And Dari Kumarka was so stable in that level. You could be naked, dressed with a drag queen, come up with your whatever form. She would see the soul. And sometimes, yeah, she would see your body in common, but she would have that ability to be in that soul awareness. And by being in that soul awareness, she helps me to be free from my fake, authentic self, confused, so my fake public self, my confused, authentic self, and my, wandering, mystical self, and get in touch with my true, original, eternal, magnetic self. And I really, really believe that thoughts that come from that state of consciousness, which we call sometimes the seed stage, are the most powerful thoughts that can change. And I've experimented with people that I didn't agree with, and that really bothered me, to be honest with you, and challenged, my ability to love them. And I started to be negative in my head about some people. And I said, Eric, you can't keep going like that. And I cannot just artificially polish my public self by saying, you're okay, yes, sister, I like you. No, that's fake. And the authentic self is struggling because it knows I want to be pure, but I'm not having a pure thought. And you request your mystic self to show up and help you. But it's the magnetic self that helped me to have thought of the soul and go beyond the personality, the public image of the other. Talk to the soul to soul, and create another level of thoughts. And I found that those thoughts that I created for these souls were based on what we call good wishes and pure feelings. Actually, pure feelings and good wishes. Pure feeling of soul recognition, and then the wishes are good. The thoughts become good, but they come from the purity. So there's a very long explanation, but to me, it's the layers that take us deep into the self. So we extract not just positive or, nice thoughts, but pure thoughts. And they impact a lot. And I change relationships. And I've experienced that atmosphere on a spiritual level is not geographic. It's not that you have an aura of 3 meters wide when you change the atmosphere. You impact people that you think about. even if they are on the other side of the world. So the atmosphere we create is a bubble that connects with whoever I'm thinking of. And if I change my mind and my heart towards someone by doing some work on myself, I found that by changing my feelings towards somebody else, they responded. And I was very surprised that one person one day told me, Eric, I know and I feel you respect me more now. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Why did they tell me that? And I know it's true because I respect them definitely way more without saying a word. But I changed my thoughts, and they came from the magnetic, deep self. And they were true, authentic, and they became public. So those four, Russian dolls become authentic, they become one. My public, authentic, mystic, magnetic, they're the same. It just, match well together. Sorry for this very, very long answer.
Wow. I mean, this is Eric the teacher, and I'm totally absorbed in what you're saying, because it's obvious that it's come from a place of deep learning and practical experience, that you're sharing things that you have really worked out for yourself from first principles. Now, we're going to be running 5 or so minutes over, so apologies for that in advance. And I didn't get a chance, because we were so absorbed in our conversation, to say, if you have got a question, do please write it in the chat box. I know Santosh Ben, Sister Santosh, had her hand up a few moments ago. So Santosh, if you could just write your question in the chat box, and we'll try and squeeze in a question before the end. Or if anyone else has got a little question for Eric. I feel like we need another whole hour to really keep going in this conversation, because we're really getting somewhere very useful. And this idea of the Russian dolls is incredibly helpful, because, we talk so much in Raj Yoga about be soul conscious, don't be body conscious, but actually the consciousness of the body is one of the layers of the Russian doll. It is a reality. It is an aspect of who I am. So from the that external public me, to the authentic, to the mystic, to the magnetic. And the last Russian doll is one that you can't pull her apart, because she's complete. Mm-hmm. There is nothing inside her. That is the final place that you arrive at, which is indivisible, eternal. Nothing can be added or taken away. That is just what it is. And I think that's very helpful, because otherwise we can get stuck in the language of be soul conscious, renounce body consciousness. And really, what does that mean? And really, how do we do that? But I think what you've presented to us has really helped unpack that and understand that. Okay, we've got people wanting questions, but they're not typing them in the box. So I hope we're kind of answering your questions as we go along. I had one last question around this area that you touched on of the atmosphere that is created when there's discord and disharmony. Because it's one thing to get ourselves into this place of a nice atmosphere, but then someone can come along and just say, your nose is fat, or and boom, the whole thing comes crashing down, or just whatever it is that's going to trip you up. And if you're not a practitioner of meditation, your response may be to just retaliate with an insult back again, or to just get angry, or create discord of some sort. But of course, when you do that, the atmosphere is then instantly spoiled. But what I'm hearing you say is that there's a goal beyond that, which is the goal of unity, the goal of maintaining that atmosphere, which is more important than winning a particular argument. And that the practice of this meditation is to know how to navigate those challenging moments and situations in such a way as we maintain that atmosphere with ourselves and with those around us. So just as your final comment, really, do you want to just say a few words about the challenge of doing that in the everyday world?
Well, I think to me, it's a question of how do we position ourselves. If I'm in a fighting mood, I'll go and dig for weapons with the ability to hurt someone. But if I'm not in a fighting mood, in which mood am I? And what is the right position or right posture to adopt in order to respond to something else? And one day it came out as a joke almost. And, you know, there's always little things happening. And for me, honestly, like I said, I've done a lot of work to find out how can I really have, you know, pure feelings, good wishes for everyone. And I noticed it was, you know, addressing my question of selfishness, ego. It's always something there in the way. And so one day I said as a joke almost, I says, for me, anyway, I don't know. I don't have conflict with anyone. So it's not totally true, but I made it as a joke. I said, no, for me, I'm a super yogi. I have no conflict with anyone, as a joke, you know, and people smile. And it was such a powerful thought that came such a funny way, but it resonated so nicely in my head. I thought, let's keep it. And it's almost as if you go into a store with how to say costumes, and you try a stupid little crown, and then they say, but actually it's very nice, I'll keep it. And then you leave the store with your silly little crown on, and then everybody says, oh, you have such a strong, strange, silly crown on you. Yeah, $1, but it's very cheap, but I kept it. And so that thought, I have no conflict with anyone, was so nice in my head that I thought, let's keep it. And as I thought next day, you know, I will face the reality and it will be gone. And next day, I have no conflict with anyone. Yeah, it still holds. And everything after weeks, after months after, I keep having the thought, whatever there will be something, I have no conflict with anyone. And I liked that position, that posture. I'm not in a conflict. Yeah, we disagree. Okay, that's fine. Yes, that person is yelling at me. It's okay. I don't have, it's not a conflict. It's just a situation. But I don't have a conflict. Therefore, I can keep liking that person. We're not in conflict. I'm not fighting against. I still like. And it was the same when I created the thought one day about someone that I didn't really like, to be honest. But the way that person behaved was actually quite entertaining from a movie point of view. And I said, interesting character in a movie. And jokingly, I thought in my head, I like her. But again, it resonated very nicely. And I said, I prefer that kind of thought to the thought, she annoying, you know, why is she like this again? But just having the thought, oh, I like her. Then I started every time I would see that person to have the same thought, oh, I like her. And it really became a reality. And this is a long, long time ago. And now, every time we see each other, it's mutual. So sometimes it's just about the position I take, the posture. And we should try magic thoughts. You know, we try a thought. The process for Raj Yoga is wonderful. It's not work hard, become perfect, and then have the thought, I'm perfect. The short track is create a thought you're perfect and keep it alive and see how it becomes real much faster than the other way around. So I believe that I need to create a positive, powerful thought, but it should come from the heart, not just from the head, which is what happened to me. As a coincidence, I would say, but these thoughts became real. So purity in the atmosphere is all about, yeah, let's be artists. Let's splash something on the painting and say, oh, wow, wonderful. And the atmosphere will be there. As I said, create a flower. When people expect you to come with your cactus and pick at them, no need for cactus. You know, just bring a flower.
Gosh, Eric, I feel like you've given us a handful of magic beans, like the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, where little Jack is given a handful of beans, and we can go away and plant these beans in the soil of our own lives and watch how they grow. And as soon as we finish, I'm going to be writing down all these points that you've shared, because they're absolutely priceless. And it's been such a beautiful sharing. We need to book longer for our next session, because I always end up feeling like we've just scratched the surface, but we've also gone really deep. So it's been a fantastic hour to be with you, and I hope everyone has enjoyed the session as much as me. I'm just looking here at a question.
In the meantime, I can really thank you, Philippa, because I was concerned, as I mentioned to you the other day, that maybe I don't have much to say on that topic. Purity is delicate, atmosphere, people don't see it. But I think you also brought the magic soil where those magic beings can have their own space to feel comfortable. So thank you for creating a space where I feel comfortable opening from the heart and sharing. So thanks to you and all the team, because sometimes we don't feel comfortable, sharing from the heart. So thanks for your questions and the way you presented them. And you also use very beautiful words to add to what I shared. So I'm going to remember them as well. So thank you. And thank you for the invitation. Sorry for taking more time, but when you invite French-speaking people, expect that. If you look at the text translated in French, it's always longer than the English one.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll allow you 10% extra, 10% extra, no problem at all. But what you were just saying about creating the magic soil, that's also part of pure atmosphere, because when you create the right conditions, then the magic beans can be planted, so it all feeds into our theme. So yeah, the comments are saying that questions have been answered, but people are using this language of the magnetic self, so I think that has really struck a chord. So Eric, before we let you go, no doubt you have a tennis match to play in the not too distant future. Could you just share with us a few moments of your own pure atmosphere as we close with a few moments of meditation?
Or you can call it a meditation, or we can have a spiritual tennis game, enjoying. And that's true. I still have an hour, but in an hour, I'll be in a tennis court enjoying a very interesting atmosphere. I love tennis, and I think they're the same. Focusing on the little yellow ball, or focusing on your thoughts are very similar. And I love the ability to maintain equanimity, in a world of tennis, which is normally polarizing your energy and characterizing always a shot like successful or failure. And we learn to say, well, maybe there's deeper reality and you're not failing or missing a shot. You're just, doing something else. So let's play on our inner tennis court and define the lines within which we'll keep our mind focused.
So this is going to be the topic for our next conversation: Zen and the art of playing tennis.
I'm all in.
You're up for that? Good.
Totally. You have to have 2 hours for that.
2 hours, definitely.
So let's sit very comfortably and invited to, you can focus your eyes on anything around you, but not necessarily closing your eyes, just being present. Let's stay together. And by being together, it's almost like we created this beautiful garden. And when we see the screen, we see all these little boxes, those magic boxes. Each one contains this beautiful seed and a flower already blossomed. And on a spiritual garden, I know it's been nurtured by this beautiful sun, generous, loving sun. The greatness of nature, the rain, the green, the richness of the soil. And when nature produces this beautiful garden, I really wonder what I would produce in my inner garden if I were to return to my natural nature, what I'm meant to be. And I know the light of the sun is within me. I can hold that light. I can nurture, care for that light. When I connect with the divine, with life itself, it's like light coming into my heart, into my brain, into my head, to my mind. Such a beautiful light, truth, purity. And all the values of my life want to dance. They want to say something. My inner peace wants to say something. My joy wants to say something. So they become flowers in the garden. They sing together, they dance together. My inner garden is caressed by light, embraced by light. And the very light rain, like diamonds falling from the sky, come into my mind with pure thoughts. Very nice, positive thoughts like sound like the bells in the orchestra. Just beautiful sounds to embellish the garden and keep it fresh. So my inner self is this garden, and I offer it to the world. People will be drawn to this magic garden, invisible to the eyes, but so attractive to the hearts. And when others come to my inner garden, I want them to feel safe so they can free themselves from their untrue self, from their illusions, from their suffering. So they are in the atmosphere of my heart and the atmosphere of my inner garden. And I give them a chance to feel that light, to be with that light, and to leave, holding the rays of that light and making that light their own. They will create their own pure atmosphere, their own pure garden, because they have that light. So to all my bees, brother and sisters, a big Om Shanti, and thank you so much for this invitation. I think I'll play tennis even better.
Thank you so much, Eric, and Om Shanti from me too.
Greetings, everyone, from the heart, and big spiritual hug to everyone. And yeah, let's keep flying and enjoying the beauty of the spiritual atmosphere and the pure atmosphere. So greetings to everyone. Welcome to Canada anytime. If I were to take my camera, it's a snowstorm. It's white. I can't even see across the street. So atmosphere of being in the subtle world of light. So welcome to Montreal. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
What a wonderful, wonderful session. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brother Eric. Thank you, Philippa. Thank you for this session. Thank you so much for giving us your valuable time and words of wisdom. I'm so inspired, and I'm sure each participant felt the same. And initially, I had a couple of questions, but they were answered even before I put them forward. So thank you to all our participants for making this series a successful one. Every month we are realizing that our level of that purity, the spiritual journey is strengthening every month. We all feel that. The recording of today's program will be posted on Dallas Center's YouTube channel, and I'm definitely going to revise it watch it once again. And you can share the link with your family and friends, and stay tuned. Don't miss the future episode and spread the word. Our future topics will be around purity in karma, purity in relationships, and many more. Definitely not to be missed. And we also have Raj Yoga course coming up in English and Hindi. If you or any of your friends, near ones, want to attend, join, please visit bkrymeditation.us, our website, to register. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Bye, everyone. Om Shanti.
Bye. Bye.